Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Cold Case Christmas 2024. And what we're going to talk about today is the heartbreaking case of a little girl. She was on her way home from school. Somebody took her and somebody horrifically ended her life on Thanksgiving Eve 1977. This is the unsolved murder of Beth Lynn Barr. Beth Lynn Barr was born on the 20th of December 1970 in Wilkinsburg in Pennsylvania. She lived with her older brother and her parents. Her dad was a police officer at the time. So the day was November 23rd, 1977. Beth Lynn was 6 years old. She'd be 7 in just a month's time. She'd been at school, and as it was Thanksgiving Eve, the kids were allowed to leave a little bit early. So they came out of school about 2:15 p.m, and most of the kids got a pick-up from a parent or family friend or whatever. But Beth lived so close to the school, like it was maximum 10 minutes walk, that she walked home. She was trusted, she was very responsible, and it was a location that was normally safe. There was no problem with her doing that 10-minute walk on her own. Except this day, there was a monster in the neighbourhood. She crossed the road with her schoolmates, and then she branched off to make that short trip home. She made it onto Tremor Avenue, where a witness said they saw her pass by regularly, and they saw her. However, Beth didn't arrive home, and the alarm was quickly raised. The local police went out, neighbours went out. They were searching very quickly. Initially, the county police superintendent offered 300 police personnel to help with the search for Beth. But bizarrely, the Wilkinsburg police declined this offer, which is a grave mistake. Why? Why on earth would you turn down 300 people? Why? But the local cops did house to house in the neighbourhood. That's how they deduced the last person to see Beth. A witness had come forward to say that they'd seen Beth talking to a man a block from her home. And this man was in a car, so clearly he'd seen Beth, stopped, probably wound his window down and engaged her in conversation. Probably said, "I'll give you a lift home, where are you going?" that kind of thing. So the car was described as having a red and white Ohio license plate. So this is Pennsylvania. Kind of striking that he'd had an Ohio license plate. A second witness reported that they'd seen a girl matching Beth's description being carried to a dull blue sedan type car with a red and white license plate. So this is two independent witnesses see the red and white license plate. So the police quickly came to the conclusion that this was a kidnapping. Maybe that's why they turned down the 300 personnel. Maybe they knew she'd been taken away from the area. Perhaps, possibly. So both of these witness accounts said that the man was white, in his 40s, medium build with brown curly hair, with sunglasses and possibly a suit. One of the witnesses also believed he was wearing a necktie, possibly someone on the way home from work, potentially. But the initial searches turned up nothing. As the time went by, police believed that they'd tracked down the vehicle, dull blue sedan with an Ohio license plate. It was a rental car based out of Conkey's Motor Inn on Route 22 in Wilkins Township. They impounded this vehicle and did a forensic search of it. They also searched the motel where this car was parked next to. Surrounding areas, all searched. It was a long 16 months later before Beth Lynn Barr's body was found. It was March 22nd, 1979, and a man named Joseph Leonard walking his dogs in woods near the Wrestler Memorial Park Cemetery in Monroeville. The dogs came upon the body. Joseph went over to see what they were doing, and there was badly decomposed human remains in a shallow grave. The coroner established that it was the remains of Beth, and it appeared that she'd been dead for quite some time, so probably murdered very shortly after she was snatched. She'd been stabbed in the chest multiple times. Who does that to a little girl? An absolute slaying. Who does that to a 6-year-old girl? She was still wearing the clothes that she'd been wearing the day she disappeared, and it was just 7 miles away from her home. Who would do this? Well, over the years, there's been a bunch of suspects. December 1977, police made an arrest. Wilbert P. Hawthorne III on charges of kidnapping, felonious restraint and aggravated assault. According to the police, witnesses had stated they recognised him as the person who'd taken Beth from the street. Another witness had said Wilbur was the man who'd attempted to pick her up from a bus stop near where Beth disappeared earlier that day. They gave him a polygraph and he passed, and cops also established that he had an alibi. Now, we have to just hope that the police did their job, and he still remains a popular suspect to people who followed this case for all these years. He died in 2016. There's also a local pastor. He's not been named publicly, but several local people called him in as a tip. He was questioned, and he provided an alibi that he was actually giving counselling to a married couple at the time Beth was taken. He did drive a dull blue car with Ohio plates, so that kind of makes sense as to why he would be tipped in. And he did live in Monroeville. There's a lot there, isn't there? But he had an alibi. He had a solid alibi. So it can't be him. Then we've got Edward Wade Edwards. Edward Edwards. So he was a serial killer who committed multiple crimes across the United States in the 1960s and 70s. He'd been in prison for a long time, but he was paroled in 1967, and then he went on a rampage. People have speculated as to whether he was the killer of little Beth Lynn Barr. It's tenuous, but people who studied the case think that some of his killings bear some similarity to that of Beth Lynn Barr. He's also been suggested as being the Zodiac killer and also the murderer of JonBenet Ramsey. So it's tenuous. Now, he died of natural causes in 2011, so people have also speculated as to whether this was some kind of revenge or reprisal against Beth's dad, being a police officer. You know, maybe somebody connected to organised crime or something like that, or even another police officer. There's no evidence for that, so that just remains a speculation. But, you know, after all this time, it's unlikely that Beth Lynn Barr's killer will ever face justice. The chances are, you know, if it was a guy in his 40s, he's going to be dead now, isn't he? But it would be nice for her family to have some kind of answer. They lived for so long with this horrible, heartbreaking event just hanging over their lives. Beth's mother spoke in 2020 of her heartbreak, and she said, "We miss our darling daughter. I'm sorry. I don't want anybody to ever forget, and that's why I wanted to do this, like speak to the media. I don't ever want anybody to forget her." She said that she, her husband, and Beth's brother have just pushed on. They've just had to carry on. They've had loads of support, family, friends, strangers who've offered prayers, warm wishes, but nothing replaces that hole in their lives that was just taken that day. The fact that the murder's gone unsolved all these years, it's just a slap in the face, isn't it? But the two people who kind of fit the description of either the person Beth was seen talking to or the vehicle both have alibis. So could it be somebody completely different that is just off the radar completely. The fact that the body was so decomposed leaves no clues behind. This was 1977, so before the days of DNA collection. I don't know whether it would be worth cops revisiting that. Did they keep samples that could be tested for DNA now, given how good technology's become in that regard? I don't know the answer to that. It's just absolutely brutal. A brutal ending of a 6-year-old girl's life. Heartbreaking. Let me know what you think about this case in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.